For our children. Above all else, for our children. "I'm going back to find our clothes," she said. "You wait here for me, in the shelter of that rock, and I won't be gone long." Then she told him what he would be too young to really understand. "I'm not going to cry any more, and I know now what I must do. I'm going to make sure that there is a tomorrow for you, always, to the last breath of my life." The bright blue star dimmed, and the others faded away. Dawn touched the sky, bringing with it a coldness that frosted the steel of the rifle in John Prentice's hands, and formed beads of ice on his gray mustache. There was a stirring in the area behind him as the weary rejects prepared to face the new day, and the sound of a child whimpering from the cold. There had been no time the evening before to gather wood for fires. "Prowlers!" The warning cry came from an outer guard, and black shadows were suddenly sweeping out of the dark dawn. They were things that might have been half wolf, half tiger, each of them 300 pounds of incredible ferocity, with eyes blazing like yellow fire in their white-fanged tiger-wolf faces. They came like the wind, in a flowing black wave, and ripped through the outer guard line as though it had not existed. The inner guards fired in a chattering roll of gunshots, trying to turn them, and Prentice's rifle licked out pale tongues of flame as he added his own fire. The prowlers came on, breaking through, but part of them went down and the others were swerved by the fire so that they struck only the outer edge of the area where the rejects were grouped. At that distance they blended into the dark ground so that he could not find them in the sights of his rifle. He could only watch helplessly and see a dark-haired woman caught in their path, trying to run with a child in her arms, and already knowing it was too late. A man was running toward her, slow in the high gravity, an axe in his hands, and his cursing a raging, savage snarl. For a moment her white face was turned in helpless appeal to him and the others. Then the prowlers were upon her, and she fell, deliberately, going to the ground with her child hugged in her arms beneath her, so that her body would protect it. The prowlers passed over her, pausing for an instant to slash the life from her, and raced on again. They vanished back into the outer darkness, the farther guards firing futilely, and there was a silence but for the distant, hysterical sobbing of a woman. It had happened within seconds. The fifth prowler attack that night, and the mildest. Full dawn had come by the time he replaced the guards killed by the last attack and made the rounds of the other guard lines. He came back by the place where the prowlers had killed the woman, walking wearily against the pull of gravity. She lay with her dark hair tumbled and stained with blood, her white face turned up to the reddening sky, and he saw her clearly for the first time. It was Irene. He stopped, gripping the cold steel of the rifle, and not feeling the rear sight as it cut into his hand. Irene. He had not known she was on Ragnarok. He had not seen her in the darkness of the night, and he had hoped she and Billy were safe among the acceptables with Dale. There was the sound of footsteps, and a bold-faced girl in a red skirt stopped beside him, her glance going over him curiously. "The little boy," he asked, "do you know if he's all right?" "The prowlers cut up his face, but he'll be all right," she said. "I came back after his clothes." "Are you going to look after him?" "Someone has to, and—" she shrugged her shoulders. "I guess I was soft enough to elect myself for the job. Why, was his mother a friend of yours?" "She was my daughter," he said. "Oh." For a moment the bold, brassy look was gone from her face, like a mask that had slipped. "I'm sorry. And I'll take care of Billy." The first objection to his assumption of leadership occurred an hour later. The prowlers had withdrawn with the coming of full daylight, and wood had been carried from the trees to build fires. Mary, one of the volunteer cooks, was asking two men to carry her some water when he approached. The smaller man picked up one of the clumsy containers, hastily improvised from canvas, and started toward the creek. The other, a big, thick-chested man, did not move. "We'll have to have water," Mary said. "People are hungry and cold and sick." The man continued to squat by the fire, his hands extended to its warmth. "Name someone else," he said. "But—" She looked at Prentice in uncertainty. He went to the thick-chested man, knowing there would be violence and welcoming it as something to help drive away the vision of Irene's pale, cold face under the red sky. "She asked you to get her some water," he said. "Get it." The man looked up at him, studying him with deliberate insolence. Then he got to his feet, his heavy shoulders hunched challengingly. "I'll have to set you straight, old-timer," he said. "No one has appointed you head cheese around here. Now, there's the container you want filled, and over there," he made a small motion with one hand, "is the creek. Do you know what to do?" "Yes," he said, "I know what to do." He brought the butt of the rifle smashing up. It struck the man under the chin, and there was a sharp cracking sound as his jawbone snapped. For a fraction of a second there was an expression of stupefied amazement on his face, then his eyes glazed, and he slumped to the ground with his broken jaw setting askew. "All right," he said to Mary. "Now you go ahead and name somebody else." He found that the Prowlers had killed 70 during the night. 100 more had died from the hell fever that often followed exposure and killed within an hour. He went the half-mile to the group that arrived on the second cruiser as soon as he had eaten a delayed breakfast. He saw, before he had quite reached the other group, that the Constellation's lieutenant commander, Vincent Lake, was in charge of it. Lake, a tall, hard-jawed man, with pale eyes under pale brows, walked forth to meet him as soon as he recognized him. "Glad to see you're still alive," Lake greeted him. "I thought that second Gurn blast got you along with the others." "I was visiting midship and wasn't home when it happened," he said. He looked at Lake's group of rejects, in their misery and uncertainty so much like his own, and asked, "How was it last night?" "Bad, damned bad," Lake said. "Prowlers and hell fever, and no wood for fires. 200 died last night." "I came down to see if anyone was in charge here, and to tell 'em that we'll have to move into the woods at once, today. We'll have plenty of wood for the fires there, some protection from the wind, and by combining our defenses, we can stand off the Prowlers better." Lake agreed. When the brief discussion of plans was finished, he asked, "How much do you know about Ragnarok?" "Not much," Prentice answered. "We didn't stay to study it very long. There are no heavy metals on Ragnarok's other sun. Its position in the advance of the resources of any value. We gave Ragnarok a quick survey, and when the sixth man died, we marked it on the chart as uninhabitable and went on our way. As you probably know, that bright blue star is Ragnarok's other sun. Its position in the advance of the yellow sun shows the season to be early spring. When summer comes, Ragnarok will swing between the two suns, and the heat will be something no human has ever endured. Nor the cold when winter comes. I know of no edible plants, although there might be some. There are a few species of rodent-like animals, they're scavengers, and a herbivore we called a woods goat. The Prowlers are the dominant form of life on Ragnarok, and I suspect their intelligence is a good deal higher than we would like it to be. There will be a constant battle for survival with them. There's another animal, not as intelligent as the Prowlers, but just as dangerous, the unicorn. The unicorns are big and fast, and they travel in herds. I haven't seen any here so far. I hope we don't. At the lower elevations are the swamp crawlers. They're